Back at it one more time. Where you at, boys and girls? It is time. The demise of the Green Bay Packers begins now. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is gone. Jordan Love has taken over. There is absolutely nothing you could possibly like about this team. Let's just write them off and move on. That's the way everybody feels, right? If I'm starting like that, I don't think that way. So let's find out what I really think. Time for the Green Bay Packers, our 23rd of 32 trips down team preview lane. I am Jim Derry. This is bet.nola.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast. And what do we think about the Green Bay Packers now that Aaron Rodgers has moved on, Jordan Love has moved in? So tell me if you've heard this story before. A quarterback is drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He sits for 3 years under this future Hall of Famer, and then finally gets his chance. Where does this story sound familiar? Where did it play out? Oh, it played out with Aaron Rodgers before, but Jordan Love can't be any good. He can't possibly be any good. His accuracy is terrible. They've lost so many receivers. We don't like his coach. They haven't done this. They haven't done that. Yeah, well, I don't care if I give you a spoiler alert. I don't feel that way at all. I think the Packers are in very capable hands. I'm not going to give you my exact prediction yet, but we're going to take a walk down the line, so to speak, and I'm going to tell you why I think Jordan Love is ready to go. Look, I don't care what he's done in preseason. I don't care what he's done in his short little chances to show his stuff. Remember that Kansas City game where he got a chance to start and he kind of didn't do anything? What was it, 10-7 or something along those lines? I think he got a chance against San Francisco as well. Whatever it is, I keep hearing great athlete. Accuracy is a concern. Well, how do we know? How do we know this until he gets a chance? Look, I think he has all the tools to be the kind of quarterback that the Packers are looking for. And the fact, other than Allen Lazard, what have they really lost? What has this team really lost? Look at the bottom of the screen. I mean, nothing really on defense. They lost Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis, which isn't on the screen. But they drafted 2 tight ends, including one in the second round, and Luke Musgrave. So, look, Aaron Jones has had his share of moments where he's been hurt. He also got in the doghouse for a little while last year. I'm not sure if it was Aaron Rodgers' doghouse or if it was Matt LaFleur's doghouse, but he certainly was in there for a little bit, ready to come back and come back strong, along with A.J. Dillon, who it seems like every year A.J. Dillon has taken the next step to becoming that number one running back that everyone wants him to be. I think there are 2 ones. I think both of these guys are 1 and 1A or 1A and 1B, whatever you want to call it. I think they're both going to get their fair share of touches. I like A.J. Dillon this year. If you're in fantasy football, he can be gotten a lot later than he's worth. That's one of the sleepers to me. Could be gotten. This guy doesn't know how to speak. Whatever. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. But when it all comes down to it, I want to talk about the receivers because people are talking about Allen Lazard being gone, and yeah, it's a big deal. Christian Watson really towards the end of the season, he didn't start off hot. He didn't start off great, and he only finished with 41 catches for 611 yards, 7 scores. But towards the end of the season, he looked like the guy that they drafted early in the draft and wanted to be a top-notch receiver. I think he takes a big step forward, but you know what? Nobody likes talking about Romeo Doubs. He got injured towards the end of last year, and that really was part of the reason why Christian Watson was able to take that step that we were talking about and being such a huge part of this offense. And if you look at Dobbs' number, he actually had 1 more catch than Watson did with 42. He only had 425 yards, only had 3 touchdowns. I think both of those guys take major steps up. What a nice rookie campaign. But Matt LaFleur, look, I think Matt LaFleur as a coach has been waiting for his chance to coach without Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you'd be a fool to say, okay, you're better off now that you don't have Aaron Rodgers. But in some respects, I think they are. And why is that? Because he had become a distraction. There was no question he was ready to leave. I mean, for God's sake, he was ready to retire almost. I think before even last year, we were questioning whether he was going to come back, and he was doing Zen and what was going to happen, and were they going to let him go? Look, finally ended up being the best thing for both teams. Got a trade out of it, made a deal with the Jets. Ended up working out, being the best thing. And now Matt LaFleur gets to coach this team, and we get to see how good he is of a coach. And before we get to the schedule, got to talk about the defense. Look, their strength is up front. If they can put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, you got to be able to rein in Kirk Cousins. You got to be ready to stop Justin Fields, and you certainly got to put some pressure on Jared Goff for you to have a chance to win this division. Some nice numbers on the screen, except when it comes to rushing defense. They had trouble stopping the run, but if this defensive front can do that, again, you're talking about guys like Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt on the ends. They were able to do their jobs last year. You see from left to right, Kenny Clark on the left. Can they do that again? I think they can, but they have got to improve that number, that rushing yards per game number that cannot be 26. And here's one reason to be super optimistic about the Packers. When we look at a schedule, the first thing we look at is that number in the top right. Toughest schedule. 21st toughest schedule, which right off the bat tells us it's easier than an average schedule. Numbers based off of win-loss, projected win-loss totals by Caesars Sportsbook. But when I dive into it, for the Packers, I think this schedule is actually easier than that number, 21st toughest. I'd put it more like 25th, 26th, and especially the way that it starts. I mean, it might be surprising, but it wouldn't be shocking if these Packers started out 5-0. Just look at the schedule. Of course, you're starting on the road for 2 straight games is tough. But at Chicago, at Atlanta, if you're going to start on the road, those are 2 places you might as well start. I mean, not bad. Then you get your home opener on September 24th against the Saints before you on a short week, but at least you're at home against the Lions on September 28th. I think that game is going to tell us a lot about this division. Remember last year when I was talking about Green Bay and Minnesota playing in week 1 was going to tell us a lot about how this division was going to go? Oh, boy, did it. I think this year it could be Green Bay versus Detroit on September 28th. Looking forward to that. And then at Las Vegas on October 9th on a Monday night, almost like a bye week there. Does get tougher at Denver, but then they play 3 out of the next 4 at home, Minnesota, the Rams, at Pittsburgh, home for the Chargers. You go 2-2 through that stretch, and you're doing okay. And then you got at Detroit on Thanksgiving before you get, to me, the last real toughie on this list. Kansas City at home on a Sunday night. That is, to me, the last tough game on this schedule, because then you run off at the Giants. If this team is anywhere over 500 when they get to at the Giants on December 11th, look out, because they could make a nice little run there at the end. At the Giants, Tampa Bay at home, a cold Lambeau with Tampa Bay coming to town, at Carolina, at Minnesota, home for Chicago to end the season. Drum roll, please. Look, I think I'm being on the low side. I'm being conservative, I think, when I say 10-7. I think this could be an 11 or a 12-win kind of team. You're talking about a team that disappointed last year because Aaron Rodgers was just – it was a crap show. I'm not going to say the word. It was just a mess. You're talking about a 13-14 from the year before, went 8-9 last year. I don't see any reason why they can't go 11-6. I love both of these bets. I think you're getting great value. This might end up being the number 1 value. I'm going to have to go through my list because I am going to run a top 10 value plays and futures. This might be number 1 on my list. If not, it's 100% in the top 5. Plus 360 to win the NFC North. I don't even think it's just a value. I think the Packers do win the NFC North, and their alt over wins, you can find it on Caesars Sportsbook and just about everywhere. Alt over 9.5 at plus 240. Another great bargain. Let's see what Jordan Love does, but if he does anything, this is going to be a really good team. You sleep on them, you're gonna be sorry you slept on them. Number's not going to be there by the end of September because they're going to win a lot early. Go grab the Packers. We'll talk about the Vikings in a little bit in our second NFC North team of the day. We'll wrap up the NFC North with the Vikings coming up.